Welcome back to the Seamstress YouTube channel. In today's class, we are going to learn how to make this beautiful queen hand bustier blouse. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. This is something you like to learn. Kindly stay tuned till the end of the tutorial. Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to start by drafting our basic bodice for the queen ant neckline. Okay, so I already marked this with pencil here so that it can be fast. So basically from my starting point here, I'm going to note my armhole line, my bust point, my under bust, and my half length, and I'll make all of that into a straight line. And then here on the shoulder area, I'm going to mark my shoulder measurement. The shoulder is 15, divided by 2 is 7.5, so I have it there. So as you can see, I have made all of them into a straight line. So the next line that we will need is our bust span. So my bust span is 8 inches, divided by 2 is 4. So from here, from the center front here, I'm going to mark the 4 inches on the waistline. I'll do the same thing on my under bust, and then the same thing on the bust point. So after that, I'll take my long ruler and connect the 3 points together, and then I'm going to go over to my shoulder area. I have connected my shoulder. The neckline is 3 inches, and then on this shoulder line I came down by 1 inch and connected for my shoulder slope and drew my armhole line. So here I'm marking what I have on my shoulder, and I will simply divide that into 2. So whatever I have that there, I'm going to connect to my bust point. Okay, I hope we understand what we have so far. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to take my dart on the under bust. So on the under bust, I'm taking a dart of 1 inch on both sides, and then I'm doing the same thing on the waistline. So after that, I'll take my ruler again, and then I'm going to connect my dart together. So here on the bust point area, I'll come down by like half an inch here, and then I'll take my curved ruler and connect from my waistline to my under bust. Okay, make sure what you have there is not so sharp. Sorry, my marker is peeling. So now we have taken the waist dart. The next thing now is to take the dart here on the neckline area so that we can tighten it. You don't want any gaping. Okay, you want this queen ant neckline, it needs to be as firm as possible for it to be fine. So to avoid gaping there, what I'm going to do is to first decide how deep I want it to be. So I think I'm just going to leave it at the depth that I have for my armhole, which is 8.5 inches, although I think the deeper the finer because of the cross that I have there on the neckline. So I'm just maintaining what I have here. It can be lower or higher depending on what you want, and then I'll go over to my armhole and then decide where I want the neckline to stop, because it's like a yoke that is going to be there. So there I'm just going to mark around 5 to 6 inches downwards. So here I'm marking 5.5 inches, and then I'm going to connect from here to the armhole for my neckline curve. So you just need to get a curve that can do this for you perfectly. Sorry, this is not a perfect curve, but I'll just make do with what I have. So I'm connecting from here all the way to my armhole. You can see, please just get a curve that will give you something really nice. So I'll just use my free hand. Okay, so that is what I have there for my armhole. So after that, now I'll go ahead and tighten my upper bust area. So here I'm taking a dart of 0.75. You can take from half an inch to 1 inch depending on how busty the person is. So I'm taking 0.75 on both sides of this center line that I have there, and then again I'm going to connect this to my bust point. So whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that you don't have it sharp at any point. Okay, so on this other side as well, I'm going to connect to that mark that I have there, and you can see all of the darts that we are going to be taking out for this pattern. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to create my enhanced neckline, which is the main thing we're doing here. So what I'm going to do now is to decide where my second dart leg is. This is the first dart leg, this is the second dart leg. So on this second dart leg, I'm simply going to take my straight ruler and then connect from there to where my shoulder starts. Remember, all of this from here to here is the neckline, so from here is where my shoulder starts. So I'll just take my ruler now and then connect in a diagonal form, just like this. So you can see what I have here. So this is the yoke. You can cut it together with the bodies, or you can just cut it separately as a yoke. Whichever one you want to work with is fine. So the next thing now is to take our circumference measurement, and then I'm going to take my bust dart. So for the bust dart, just simply take the difference between your front and back measurement. I get this question a lot on bust dart, so I'm just going to try to explain it as much as I can. So here I just have a small diagram of like what it looks like. This is the front with a bust, and this is the back without a bust. Okay, so now if you tie a rope on your waistline, so let's assume this is the waistline, and then from your shoulder area, which should be somewhere here, and you take your waist measurement from your shoulder area to the waist from the front like this, and then you do the same thing for the back. If you take the measurement from the shoulder area to the front like this, and you do the same thing for the back, you will notice that what you will have for the front is going to be more than what you have for the back, because for the front we have a bust. Okay, we have like a bump here, a bust, whereas for our back is just straight. Okay, so now for me, for my front I have 18 inches, and then for the back I have 16 inches. So if you subtract 18 from 16 inches, you are going to have a difference of 2 inches. This difference of 2 inches is what I'm going to be taking as my bust dart. So what this bust dart does for you is that it reconciles whatever difference that you have from your front and back, and then after taking your bust dart, it gives you more contour for your bust. So by the time we take it here now, we'll see the difference. So once you take your bust dart and you close it, you realize that you have more room for the bust. It gives your cup a form of, it gives it more depth basically. So this is what we do. That's why we take the bust dart, because I get this question a lot. So I believe that with this, I'm sure that we'll understand it a bit better. So now to take my bust dart, I'm taking my bust measurement. My bust is 10 inches, that's 40 divided by 4. So I've taken 4 inches there, and then I'm going to complete my 10 inches. Okay, so I have added my allowances, and the next thing now is to join the side seam together. So after that, I'm going to take my tape rule. So I'm marking 2 inches from my bust line downwards, the 2 inches difference that I have from my front and back, and then I'm going to connect that to the bust point, and I will take this out as well. So now I will start to cut out this pattern. So I'm going to start by cutting the neckline first. Like I said, you can either cut this yoke together, you can cut this yoke together with your bodies by just cutting like this. I mean the queen hands neckline part, you can cut together with your bodies like this, or you detach it. Whichever one you want to work with is fine. So the next thing now is to cut this lower part. So to close my bust dart, I'm going to try to, I want to reduce what I have here. Okay, so to close the bust dart, I'm going to try to open one of the dart legs so that I can transfer the dart that I have there on the bust dart to that part. So now after opening this part up, I can go ahead and close my bust dart, and then you can hold it with your masking tape or a glue, so you can see. So once you close it up, it's going to be transferred to this dart, and it's going to open up this part so that you have a deeper cup, especially if the person is busted. This is going to help. It's going to give you a deeper cup space so that you have enough room for the bust. So now I'm cutting the armhole area as well. So for me, I want this to be detached, so I'll just detach my neckline from the bodies, and then I'm going to cut this dart as well. Okay, you can see now I have cut it out. This is the center front, this is the side front, and this is the yoke. So like I said, you can see this is my bust dart. So now before closing the bust dart, you can see what I have. Once you close it up, you can see how much this dart has increased. It just opened more space for you there. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and then I'll bring it back to show us what we have. So I have gone ahead to cut it on my fabric. You can see I added the necessary allowances to it. I added the allowance on my dart lines, and then on the upper part to join the yoke to it. So I used this Ankara fabric for my main fabric, and then I used this yoke for my this lace for my yoke. Okay, so for this Ankara fabric as well, I've gone ahead to cut my lining the exact same way. So all you just need to do is to pad this with whatever it is you want to pad it with. This is the center front and these are the side fronts. So go ahead now and then sew them together. Okay, so I will sew the front of the, I will sew the main fabric, and then I will sew the lining as well. So if you're going to be fixing lining to this as well, you must have done with your lining, but because it's just a lace, I'm not lining it, so I'm just going to be working with it the way it is. So after joining the dart lines together, I'll just go ahead now and sew my, I'll sew my Queen Anne's, my yoke to it as well. So after sewing the yoke, I'm going to use the lining to cover everything up so that it can come out neat. So what I'm doing first now is to join this together, the dart lines together, and then I will sew this to it. So after this, I'll bring it back for us to show us how to join with lining. Okay, so I have joined the dart and then I have sewn the yoke. You can see. So this is what we have now. So now this is what it looks like on the inside. To clean it up, I have joined my lining as well. So this is what the lining is going to look like. So you just need to flip it like this, and then you sew the lining on the neckline area, and then you're going to flip it over. So after doing this, it's going to cover up the rough edges for you, and it's also going to cover whatever you use to pad this as well. So you can go ahead and cut whatever back panel that you want for this. So I'll sew this down and then I'll take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, so this is what the neckline looks like. You can see the yoke that we did with our lace, and this is what the full view of the bustier looks like. You can see how beautiful and fitted this looks. I hope you enjoy making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed this, let us in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one.